Barakatay Hawa, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Happy L-Tryptophan Day. Today is November 24th, 2022, the year of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai turning up. And as you know, today is that so-called, or today is Thanksgiving Day, as the rapper Nas put it. And pretty much it gave me the idea to do a lesson based off of what Jake calls the itis, that swole up, sleepy feeling you get after you eat a big meal of all different types of proteins and carbs and all kind of sugar and all kind of drinks and everything that elevate your blood sugar and pretty much put you to sleep. So I want to kind of use that for the what's the word I'm looking for the lesson. It was another word that I was trying to get, but for the lesson in general, period. But before we get into that, I want to get into this here real quick. This is a video by the beloved priest Zakar. And what I'll do is I'll put this video, I put it in the description box. So when you get a chance, just go to it, subscribe to the brother's page, to the priest page from New York. Build up his subscribers. He does very good videos, and he's doing a video dealing with this devil, Rabbi Harry, caught in a bold-faced lie. Now, I'm not gonna really speak on that aspect of it. If you want to watch it, you can watch the, priest and a young elder Zakar's video on it. I'm up almost 40 minutes in, but I brought it back here because I wanted to focus on this comment here around the 16:44 minute or so, 60 minute 44 seconds. There's an individual here by the name of Mark Leeper. Looks like Mark Leeper. When you go to his page, you'll be able to see a little better. But what he says, you are the sons of Japhethite, Gentile. You know it. You are not descendants of Shem. He's speaking about Harry. I don't know if his name is Harry Rosenthal or whatever, Rosenberg or Rosenthal, or whatever the case may be. But the point, what he's saying is you are of the sons of Japheth, which this is the consensus with most people some people that wake up to know that they're Israelites. They say that the so-called white man comes from the seed of Japheth, which they don't. And to correct them, he says that Harry Rosenthal, or whatever his name is not a Shemite, and he is a Shemite. He is a Hebrew, he is a Shemite, but he is a Shemitic Hebrew Edomite. He is not a Shemitic Hebrew Israelite. He just missed the mark. But the point I want to focus on is when he says Japhet, he uses the word Gentile, because you have some individuals that teach that the only Gentiles are those that come of the seed of Japhet, because it identifies them as being Gentiles in Genesis 10. So we're going to just deal with that real quick and then move on, because the word Gentile simply comes from the Hebrew word Gawayim or Gawaya, which means nation. That's all it means, and every nation is a Gentile. But when the scriptures speak about the Gentiles, sometimes it's referring to all other nations, sometimes includes Israel, sometimes it's dealing with the Israelites. It depends on the content of the scripture. When the scriptures speak about the Gentiles not having a part of this ministry, that's talking about the other nations. So when we go to Genesis 10:1, now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. All people on the planet Earth go back to these three sons, Shem, Ham, or Japheth. So everyone's line on the earth, no matter what they call themselves, no matter what they look like, no matter what language they speak, they all go back to one of these three men. So it says the sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, Javan, and Tubal, Meshach, and Tyrus. Javan, this is where you get the word Yawan, which is the name of the ancient area, for lack of better words, that's called Greece today. You know, and this is why they say that they are Edom. I mean, the so-called white men are Japhites, because their line goes back to the Greeks, and the Greeks, you know, that goes back to Japheth. No, they took over those lands. There's a difference between being the originators of something and being the ones that took over or colonized an area, you know, and hijacked a people's nationality. Just like the small hats. The small hats are running around claiming to be the people of the Lord, and they're not. There was also a comment here that said that, you know, it was a small hat that said, well, look, we can trace our line back 1,000 years. And immediately I said, yeah, you're right, back to Kagan Bullen and the Khazar Empire. You know, when they converted to what's known as Judaism, not the scriptures. Judaism is a total different monster than, you know, the beliefs and the tenets of the scriptures. All right, so it goes on to say, and Tubal and Meshach and Tyrus, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah, and the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. Now this is the point I wanted to get to. By these, Salaki, for a minute, let me get rid of this bullshit. Right here, it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their land. So immediately, because you don't find the word Gentile mentioned in any of these other sons of Noah, immediately they say, well, look, the Gentiles are really only the Japhites. But check this out. By these were the isles of the Gentiles, because I had this debate, you could say, on the comment board years ago with another individual, could have been an Edomite, that was trying to give me the same bullshit. And then I told him, when we read through it, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands. And when you look up the word Gentiles, it's Gawaya, which should be Gawayim, because here you see it has Ha Gawayim, which means the nations or the Gentiles. Gawaya is singular for nation. Gawayim is plural for nations. You go there, right? Nation, people, usually of non-Hebrew people. It could be that. Of descendants of Abraham, yes. Of Israel, yes. It depends on how it's used in content. All right? So it says here, but these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nation. When you look up that word nation or nations, you have the Hebrew word Gawaya again, or Gawayim. You know? So the so-called people of Japheth are not the only Gentiles. It depends on how the word is used. You know, when the scriptures speak about the Gentiles not receiving salvation, those are all other nations, excluding the Israelites, because the Israelites are the only ones that salvation is open to. All right. So, you know, I just wanted to make that, you know, briefly known, that within the same verse, you have the word Gentile and you have the word nations, or Gentiles and the word nations, and they both go back to the same Hebrew word Gawaya, which means nation, or Gawayim, which means nations. All right. So I just wanted to make mention of that. Now, based off of the name of the lesson, Happy Tryptophan Day, so-called, you know, Thanksgiving Day, right? So I typed in, does tryptophan make you sleepy? Over the past 20 years, 40 control studies have been described concerning the effects of L-Tryptophan on human sleepiness and or sleep. The weight of evidence indicates that L-Tryptophan in doses of 1 gram or more produces an increase in rated subjective sleepiness and decrease in sleep latency, time to sleep. All right. And reason why, you know, the Spirit was on me to do something on this lesson, building off of the effects of tryptophan or L-Tryptophan, is because, you know, what's happening in the system is that it's causing the brain to want to shut down and make the body go to sleep so that it can break down all of the fats and proteins and everything that has just been injected into the body from this big meal, right? So pretty much this is indicative. That's a physical description of it, but this is indicative of the spiritual aspect of what's going on in the world today. Those that are outside of the truth are under the spiritual L-Tryptophan of Esau, which is their fat, their the lies that they've been teaching that pretty much, are making the people to go to sleep. All right. So hence happy L-Tryptophan day or Thanksgiving day. So when we go to Revelation 13:3, it says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. When we read from the first verse, it speaks about a dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. The dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns represents all of the Edomite empires and governments going all the way back to the Greeks, the Romans, and beyond. All right. Today, dealing with America, America happens to be the revival of the ancient Roman Empire, which was one of the 7 heads of this great dragon, this great red dragon. So it says, and I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death. So this head that was wounded to death was the Roman Empire when they fell back. It started around 96 AD or so. Jake started getting up in there. But what Jake did when they took over the pagan Roman Empire was they continued on those pagan practices. So pretty much it was like the pagan Roman Empire, except Jake was controlling it at the time. You see? So when around 325 AD came and rolled around, you had Constantine the Great, as his title is. He introduced at the behest of his mother, I believe her name was Helen, something like that, that the religion of the empire should be Christianity. But he was a pagan, so he incorporated pagan worship into what was known as Christianity at the time, and he introduced that. This is when the pagan Roman Empire became the Holy Roman Empire. Just bear with me. And this is when pretty much that whole system of the Roman Empire was pretty much demolished, even though secretly there were pagan rites within Christianity, but the pagan Roman Empire ceased to exist pretty much at that point. So at that point, that beast was wounded to death, because it was taken out of commission, so to speak, right? Then it says, and his deadly wound was healed, because when you read further into the scriptures, it tells you that there was going to be 1,000-year period where this beast was going to be laying dormant, and after that 1,000-year period, that beast, matter of fact, let's get it, that beast was going to come back into power. And when that beast came back into power, the very first thing that they did was they started to deceive the whole world. Hence, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. When we read Revelation 20:7, it says, Satan freed, doomed. Now, when you're looking at the word Satan here, it's not talking about the spiritual demon Satan. It's talking about this system that's set up as, a demonic belief system. All right, from everything, from the politics to the financial to the religious. Matter of fact, let's just jump to the first verse. And I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. Right, this angel is Yahushai. And you go to the 18th verse of the first chapter, having the key of the bottomless pit. The key represents to be able to open or shut something. So Yahushai was given all power in heaven and in earth by the Most High. It says the bottomless pit because a pit is known as a plot of land. And the bottomless pit being Europe is because of the lack of mineral resources. This is why they have to import a lot of stuff from different countries that have better soil and are able to grow spices and certain fruits and vegetation, so on and so forth. And it says, and a great chain in his hand. That great chain represents a binding. And that binding came in the form of shutting up the whole system of the beast at that time for a period of 1,000 years. It says, and he laid hold of on the dragon, which we read that the dragon was who? 7 heads and 10 horns. The 7 heads and 10 horns it explains to you in the 17th chapter that it's a group of nations, pretty much, of Edomite nations, that's why they're known as red, that would be governing on the planet Earth, with rulers, right? That old serpent, because this dragon, this beast system, this Edomite system goes all the way back to the garden, because the snake or the serpent in the garden was not an actual serpent. It was an actual man with serpentine ways. So that same spirit lives on through the Edomites, through Esau, then through the different empires that were established by Esau, beginning with the Greeks. This is why they have a terminology that says civilization began with the Greeks. Why? Because that was the beginning, of Esau ruling and gaining control and influence over the whole entire planet. It says, which is the devil, because they're also devils. The word devil means slanderer or deceiver, and Satan. And the word Satan represents or means adversary. And when you look at what they do, they're adverse to everything that the Most High puts up. They oppose everything that the Most High establishes, everything that the Lord stands for, and as far as righteousness is concerned, they oppose it. So all of these names are all attributed to the Edomite empires and the Edomite people as a whole, beginning with Amalek, the small hats, and the rest of those Edomites. Excuse me. It says, and what? And bound him 1,000 years. So from the point of the ending of the pagan Roman Empire, 1,000 years into the future, they were put to silence. They were under like a dark cloud. Then they came out of that. And after they came out of that, the very first thing they did was what? They started to deceive the world. Because it says, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him. Right. So they were sealed up. Just like the book of the scriptures was sealed up. The Lord told Daniel, seal up the words of the book until the time of the end. They were sealed for a period of 1,000 years. That he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. So after the fulfillment of these 1,000 years, he would be able to be what? And after that, he must be loosed a little season. So from the time that they were loose, from the 1325, 1350, all the way up until today, that's considered a little season in the eyes of the Lord. Because remember, one day with the Lord is 1,000 years. So when they were let loose of that little season, what was the very first thing they did? Verse 7, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan, meaning the Edomites, shall be loosed out of his prison. That dark veil is going to be removed. Why? Because their sentence was up at that time. And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the 4 quarters of the earth. And that was the very first thing they did, deceive the nations that were in the 4 quarters of the earth. So going back to Revelation 13, it says, and I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death. That was the ancient Roman Empire. And his deadly wound was healed during the time of what was called the Renaissance. And it's no coincidence that the word Renaissance, which is a French word, is a compound word which means rebirth. Renaissance or Renaissance. Re is back, and naissance is where you get the word birth. In Spanish, nacer, meaning to be reborn. Why is that? Because they came back pushing the same things and the same policies, the same religious rights and the same political rights and everything as they did prior to them being put to sleep for that 1,000-year period. So you could understand. All right. So it says, and all the world wondered after the beast. So what happens when they wandered after the beast? They were all put under a dark veil. All right? And that dark veil, what did that dark veil do? Matter of fact, let's get the book of Isaiah. Let's get Isaiah 60. We're just going to go straight to the point. Verse 2. It says, "For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people." See? So with that gross darkness, what did it do? It slowed people down, spiritually. Just like when you eat a big meal and you don't have, and it's not balanced out, with your vegetables and salads and all that, what happens? Your body wants to shut down and go to sleep. So this, these philosophies and ideologies of Esau is making and slowing people down and making them to go to sleep. And even as we speak right now, the world is witnessing the Israelites, even on a higher level, higher scale, but they're still asleep because you have a lot of individuals out there that know that they're Israelites, right? But they're still pushing that Africa bullshit. You see? Trying to still incorporate that Hamitic culture into being an Israelite. So you still have a lot of people that are asleep. Then you have, groups that have a big vein right now. Namely the IUIC. They have the Lord opened up a big vein for them to push the word out, but they're not teaching those names. See, when you go back to the time of Egypt, before the Lord delivered the Israelites out of Egypt, his name was magnified. And the very first thing Moses asked the Lord was, "What is your name?" He didn't say, "What are your laws, statutes, commandments? What are your tenets, your statutes? What do you want done? What are your instructions?" He asked him first for his name. Because everything that you see out there, whatever it may be, it has a belief, has a following, and it also has a name attached to it. So you can know who the originator of this particular thought pattern, for lack of better words, is. So it's the same thing now. So why not push that name, the names of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, in that vein, so at least people can get more acquainted with it. Oh, well, it's a Hebrew and people don't understand the Hebrew, and it's too complicated. No, it's not. When we all came into truth years ago, it was the same thing. We didn't know the Most High's name was Yahweh and his son's name was Yahushai. All we knew was God, Jehovah, Jesus, Christ, and all that. But then when it was explained to us, it was very simple. It wasn't that hard. Oh, it says we shall speak to them in another language. Yes. But it also says that we would be speaking the language of Canaan. And that the Lord would bring back his name into our remembrance. So that was an opportunity to push the word out there. But what's happening is there's a lot of confusion going on. And you have Jake out there that's trying to understand what's going on with this whole Kyrie Irving thing, because outside of Ye and Kyrie, your 4 Ks, your KKKK, your Kendrick Lamar's, your Kodak Black, your Kyrie Irving, your Ye, Kanye West, all Ks. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. Outside of that and their celebrity, people would have never, a lot of Jakes out there would have not seen or heard about the truth of the Israelites. So now that it's out there, and now that their minds are open to them being Israelites, you should give the name to them, something that attaches to the whole doctrine and the name of the power of heaven and the author and originator of all of these thoughts and thought patterns and laws and statutes and commandments. Because if you're coming in the same name that the slave master came in, that these same plantation Christians are still holding to this day, the name Christ, then you lost already. Because the Yahushai's name, Yahushai Hamashiach, which is so-called Jesus the Messiah, he didn't speak Hebrew. His name is not in, I'm sorry, he didn't speak Greek. He didn't speak English. His name is not in Greek or English. Those are later translations, but his name, his original name, that's what's important. Because the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is going to exalt those names even more and more prior to this place going down. Because the whole world is going to give credence and acknowledgement to the Lord Yahweh and his son Yahushai by the time it's all said and done. It says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth and gross darkness to people. So it's making people slow down. All right. We go to Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9. This is dealing with Israel and specifically, which is the most important nation on the planet, are the Israelites. The two major important nations on the planet are the Israelites and the Edomites. All right. Outside of that, everything else is gravy, potatoes, the butter, the peas and carrots. It's the sides. But the meat and actually, well, really the meat and potatoes, should I say, are the Israelites and the Edomites, right? So he said, go and tell this people, what people? The Israelites. Hear ye indeed, but understand not. So if you hear the word and you don't understand it, then there's no benefit. And this is why Yahushua spoke to the people in parables to fulfill this prophecy. And see ye indeed, but perceive not, right? Because you're not going to spiritually understand it. Why? Because you're in a state, you're in a spiritual tryptophan state where, your body is slowed down and you feel lethargic and sleepy because of everything else going around that's blocking you from waking up and getting the proper nutrition spiritually to wake up, which is being an Israelite, which is calling on the names of Yahweh and Yahushai first and foremost. All right. It says, make the heart of this people what? Fat. Now, when we look up that word fat, right? The word fat. And it's not just talking about like fat just in general, but it could be applied to fat. And the word for fat there is the word shaman, which the word shaman means oil or fat. To be or become fat, grow fat, substance. To make fat, show fatness. Oily or gross, which pretty much what it's doing is slowing you down mentally. All right? Let's go, before we read on, let's go to Revelation 18:14. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things that were dainty and goodly are departed from thee. Right. Now, this is dealing with when after Babylon the Great is destroyed, all of these things are going to be gone. And the dainty part of it is talking about actual foods that you eat, which goes back to the Greek word lipados, which goes to the word lipos, which is grease. And these things what slow you down. But you have the physical lipos, or the physical fatty foods that slow you down, but you also have the spiritual fatty foods that mentally slow you down. And this is what's going on. There's a big, complication, a big mess, going on in the world today, especially now that the truth of the Israelites is being opened up to the world. So if you have a vein to teach Israel, whether they're worthy or not, the main thing we should be teaching them first and foremost is the names of Yahweh and Yahushai. And like brothers have been bringing out, repentance. Because if you are, because I was watching the brother Bakwar, a little while ago, and I wanted to watch the video that the elder Manat Zakba in South Carolina did, but I didn't get a chance to, but the ultimate thing is, if you have a person in a position, a prominent position, like the brothers were saying, it's not just about supporting financially, because you can support financially, but what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Are you still living that filthy lifestyle? Are you still doing things that the Lord is displeased with? Because just because you give money, that don't mean shit. You know, you have to change your whole lifestyle around. You know, you can't worship what you used to worship. You can't eat what you used to eat. You can't do things that you were doing in the past. And being in that celebrity world, they're asked to do a lot of foul shit. Okay, you don't want to be a mole, so you got to become an adulterer, or you got to sacrifice somebody in your family, or you got to ride the goat, or you got to let the goat ride you, or you got to drink blood, or you got to drink blood with sperm mixed, or you got to do this, or you got to do that, or you got to, you know. So there's always some, you know, wickedness attached to it. So giving money is not the only thing. What are you doing? What are your actions? You know? So we have, it says, things which pertain to sumptuous and delicate style of living. And that's why the average American is fat and obese. You know? Fat and obese. Why? Because of the diets that they have, which goes back to the word lipados, lipos, which is grease. You have your physical grease and you have your spiritual grease. So it says, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty, you know, your burgers and your fries and all of that stuff, you know, but also the whole concept of the ideology and religious beliefs that are pushed upon you. You know, the American dream. These are all things that spiritually slow you down. That's that spiritual L-Tryptophan, which enters the spiritual bloodstream and slows you down and puts you to sleep. Just like when you eat a big meal like you're about to have today. You know, for a lot of you out there that's going to have it today. Now, can you eat, you know, so-called Thanksgiving dinner if you want? You could eat it. All you got to do is pray to the Lord. But you have these, no, that's wicked. You can't do that. Well, how come the Apostle Paul said if you go into the idol's temple, you have the liberty to do that? Because you know that it's just a meal. You know you're going to pray over it in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. But if you have somebody that is young in the truth and doesn't understand it, don't eat. Because, you know, you don't want to destroy the brother's conscience for whom the Lord died. But you're just eating it as a meal. You're praying over it. You're eating it as a meal. You know? But then you have individuals that get all of, no, you can't eat that. Why not? It's lawful. Well, they prayed over the Jesus. They said Jesus in the name of Jesus. Yeah, well, you pray over it in the name of Yahushua. Who's over who? Is Jesus over Yahushua or is Yahushua over Jesus? Because you're talking about the other Jesus. That's who they worshiping. When you go to the store and you buy these things that you buy, these meats, you don't know what they did with that. You don't know if they somebody popped one of those a couple of times, one of those cows or sheep or goats, and you fixing it up at your house. You don't know if they prayed over it. You don't know if they sacrificed it to a demonic entity. So what do? You take it, you wash it, you season it, and you cook it, and you pray over it. Exactly, like the elder just said, it's just food. I guess they're gonna fast today. Well, whatever. If you eat, the scriptures say, don't despise them that eat, and don't despise them that eat if not. It's not a big deal. So that's the main point. So you have your physical fats, which slow you down, your L-Tryptophan, and then you have your spiritual L-Tryptophan, which comes in the form of these fatty religions. Salaki for 1 minute. All right, Salaki for that. So now let's get back to Isaiah 6. So Isaiah 6 and 10, it says, make the heart of this people fat. We looked up the word fat. The word fat goes back to the word shaman, which goes back to the word oil, right? To be or become fat, grow fat. To make fat, show fatness. Over here it says to shine. Why? Because of the oil. So what is this? This is not talking about physical, although you could apply the Hebrew word shaman to something physical. But, you know, in the case, what we're reading right here is dealing with blocking, you know, certain Israelites so that they cannot receive the truth. Bear with me 1 second. Because not all Israel is a part of the elect. You can be an Israelite, eventually you'll be saved, but you have the elect and you have the ones that are not elect. All right. Matter of fact, let me read a couple of these precepts that brothers are putting up. So, since we're making that point, Ezekiel 4:13, and the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles. This is the actual nations whither I will drive them. And that's true, because everything that we eat is defiled. Whether they're pumping it with drugs, antibiotics, you know, different poisons, dyes, you know, and a host of other things. Romans 14:15, and shalom to the El Dariala. But if thy brother be grieved with thy meat, now walkest thou not charitably, right? Destroy not him with thy meat, for whom Yahweh died. Exactly. So if you eat, don't despise the ones that eat. If you don't eat, don't despise the ones that don't eat. And if you know that you eating it, you know, will offend the brother, then don't do it. If you know you eating it will destroy a brother, don't do it. You know? Verse 20. For meat destroy not the work of the Most High. All things indeed are pure, but it is evil for that man who eateth with offense. Right. Because at the end of the day, when we read the letters of Paul, the Apostle Paul was not saying, well, you could eat anything you want. It don't matter if it's unclean or not. All you got to do is pray over it. No, that's not what it's talking about, because this is what these so-called Christians in the church do. They'll take certain things that are written, and just because they want to, you know, consume it upon their lust of that goddamn pork, they'll say, all you got to do is pray over it. Nah, will the Lord cleanse that, call thou not common or unclean. And when you read the rest of the chapter, it explains what that means. It explains what that vision meant. But they don't want that. They want to slap. You got all kind of other meat that you could eat that is good. But something about being a demon that tickles these people's fancy. You know, just like you got women out there. You have women that don't have a man. Fine, looking good. You can get with them. But it's something about, you know, Jake wanting to get with a woman that has a man. The thrill of that. The evil, wicked shit of that. You know? My people are foolish. They are wise to do evil. Verse 21, it is good neither to eat flesh, nor drink wine, nor anything whereby thy brother stumbleth, right? Or is offended, or is made weak. Exactly. Exactly. Let's see this. Romans 14:5. One man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna read this because we mentioned it, so let me read it. Romans 14:3. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for the Most High hath received him. Right. Verse 4. Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. Yea, he shall be holden up, for the Most High is able to make him stand. And that's the bottom line. Bottom line. Let me continue on here. Romans 14:22-23. Hast thou faith, have it to thyself before the Most High. Happy is he that condemneth not himself in the thing which he alloweth. Right. Because you can eat. The whole earth is the Lord's. It says, and he that doubteth is damned if he eat, because he eateth not of faith, for whatsoever is not of faith is sin. Correct. All right, so brothers are killing it. So let's go to right here before we read on, because it says make the heart of this people fat, right? So there's all different types of pitfalls, stumbling blocks, roadblocks, forks in the road. And then after you get through that fork in the road, there's another fork in the road and another 10 forks. And then so there's one path to the Lord, and that path is difficult to navigate unless the powers from heaven, Yahweh and his son Yahushai, open up the door for you to see. All right? That's why I said powers, because you have the Most High Yahweh and the Alahayim, which is Yahushai and the rest of the angels. Which you have Yahweh, Yahushai, and Ruach HaKodesh, which is the Holy Spirit. So when we read Isaiah chapter 8, I started 13. Sanctify the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. Right, because the fear of the Lord, that's the beginning of wisdom. And in the fear of the Lord, there's one of nothing, and there's protection. And he shall be for what? A sanctuary, which is what? A safe place. You know, a stronghold. For who? For those that do what the Lord commands them to do, which are the elect. But for a stone of stumbling and for a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel. Right. So it's going to be a stone of stumbling. So these different philosophies, religions that come up, every time, you know, the truth comes out, you always have, you know, other semblances of the truth with people that look like you, but they come in with other bullshit added to it. Which when somebody, oh yeah, man, this man, he's a good teacher, this, that, and the other, but then he goes off on certain things. These are all things that are planned out perfectly to steer people away, because the Lord don't want all Israel to wake up. Matter of fact, let's go to Matthew 7. There's a reason why this is called the straight gate. Matthew 7 and 13. Enter ye in at the straight gate, meaning this is how you get there. And how do you get there? Through the door. Who is the door? Yahushai. Yahushai has the key. He turns the knob. He calls. If one hears the call and walks through that threshold into that door, they're good to go. They're safe. But most will not come to that door. It says, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Right. So what we're seeing is, as the truth is expanding through the internet, through social media, so on and so forth, these different platforms, what's also increasing are these pitfalls, these wide gates that lead to destruction. Because remember, most Israelites that are watching this, they're watching it for entertainment, something to talk about, you know, and also looking for how can I get involved in something that caters to my lifestyle. What can the Lord do for me? What are y'all offering me? Why should I get involved with your group? You know, I can get involved with this or that and the other, and they offering this, that, and the other. First of all, you ain't going to do shit unless the Lord allows you to do it. Second of all, this is not about you. And this is the problem. Jake is always pushing things, you know, according to their needs and their wants, and always omit what the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai stated and set forth and etched in stone. They want to follow their own demonic ways. That's why it says, my people are foolish. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. It also says that when it comes to the righteousness of the Lord, Jake is ignorant of that. And they go about what? To establish their own righteousness. What they think should be. It's not about what you think should be. It's about what is right and what is wrong. And there's going to come a point where those that are a part of the elect are going to be able to discern between what's right and what's wrong. There's going to be a thin line, a separation. In that day, it ain't going to be, well, this person was cool. They did so-and-so and such. They're a good person to be around. No. It's either you on the Lord's side or on the wrong side. You on the right or the wrong side? You on the right or the left side? Bottom line. No ifs, ands, or buts. It says, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way, which is harder to navigate, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. You see? So with all this going on, you're still going to have those pitfalls and gins and traps and snares, roadblocks, you know? Things that are going to stop a person from going down the right path if they're not a part of the elect. All right, which brings us back to Revelation. Let me go back to Revelation 13, and then Lord's will, we'll get back to some of these other precepts. It brings us back to Revelation 13 and 4. It says one, because it said after that, matter of fact, let me start at 3 again. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, which is the Roman Empire, and his deadly wound was healed during the time of the Renaissance, especially when America was established, because those other European nations all play a part in the allies of ancient Rome, but Rome itself was a different beast in itself, which is, for lack of better words, encapsulated with America. And this is why when you hear economists, historians, and others speak about, America or speak about Rome, they're always comparing through the same parallels the ancient Roman Empire with America, because they're heading down the same route, because they are the same beast, just coming back reincarnated. It says, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So we were even a part of that before the Lord woke us up to this truth. We were a part of the world. We were a part of the blinding. And this is why in Isaiah, the 60th chapter, right? I didn't get a chance to finish that. I think we're done with this. Let's go back to Isaiah 60. It spoke about the dark veil, right? Right, it says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness of people. But the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai shall arise upon thee. How? By the words, by this truth, by the ability to be able to accept the truth because of the mind that was given to each individual, the faith that was given to each individual. And his glory shall be seen upon thee. That's why it says, arise, shine, meaning come out of that dead state you were in. Come out of that, what's the word I'm looking for? Valley of the dry bones spirit. Come out of the congregation of the dead. Take off those old grave clothes and put on this new garment that the Lord has provided for us, which is the truth, the only truth. It says, for thy light is come, right? And that's why it says that you shall hear a voice behind you. So in other words, you're going down the wrong way. So walk ye this way when you turn to the left and when you turn to the right, because the Spirit of the Lord is guiding each individual. It says, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. And when the glory of the Lord was risen upon us, there was some things that happened. There was some events that took place. There was some whole lot of shaking going on mentally. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 10, verse 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. Right? Because we were all staying upon him that smote us. Because we were a part of those that wandered after the beast at one time. All right. It says, matter of fact, let's look up this word wondered in Revelation 13 and 3, and then we'll go back to that. The word is thaumazo. Thaumazo, which goes back to the word thauma, admiration. Because the alluring effects of this place, the golden city, the lights that hypnotize, as the song American Woman goes. The the whole concept of the American dream sounds good to all these different people around the world in these different nations that may be in a position where they're in a communistic type government, right? Or a socialist type government, or a place where they don't have the ability to choose and do what they want. This place seems alluring. It's admirable. And even the Apostle John got caught up in that. That's what the angel had to rebuke him. Why did you, sit here staring at this woman like that? I'm just merely paraphrasing. Because Yahushua said, if at all possible, they would deceive the very elect. Remember, these devils are very crafty. The Lord made them so. So thaumazo goes back to the word to wonder, wonder at, marvel, to be wondered at, be had in admiration, in great esteem. So the world is following hard after the beast. They're wandering hard after the beast. So in Isaiah 10, the Lord said that the ones of the elect would not stay or rely, upon him that smote them, which is who? The Edomites, Esau. But shall stay upon the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the Holy One of Israel, in what? In truth. That's why Yahushua said, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Because this truth brings us to another level, another world outside of the world that you see around you. And even the world that you see around you, you have this whole concept of being woke, but they're only a quarter woke. The Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua made us fully woke. You have those people that are out there that know about this. They know about the international bankers. They know about Hollywood. They know about these celebrities and all these different things that are going on. They know about the traps. They know about the IRS. They know about, different, legislation and things that they're doing and projects and things, and operations that are going on. But they are not fully woke. And they think they are. You see? So it's a very narrow road, a very difficult road to navigate in the truth. That's why it was compared to water on one side and fire on the other side, and only one man can pass through at a time. Because out of 1,000 men, the Lord only chose one man. So you have to understand those ratios. Because Jake sees numbers and stars start popping up in their eyes. It's not about that. It's quality over quantity. Right? It says, it says, the remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty power, unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Not Esau, not Esau's form or Esau's way or Esau's religion or Esau's understanding or Esau's way that he breaks down scientifically or whatever who the Most High is. Because King Solomon warned us about that, of making many books. There's no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. There's always, and ain't talking about just books in general, cookbooks and carpentry books and, story books and, Aesop fable books and, none of that. It's not talking about that. It's talking about books concerning who the Most High is, concerning the scriptures. And there's many of that, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. It says, for though thy people Israel be as a sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption decree shall overflow with righteousness, right? Because there's going to be a small number that will be delivered in righteousness. And when we jump to the 27th verse, and it shall come to pass in that day that his burden, meaning Esau's burden, which is what? His religions, his philosophies, political, everything, and that hypnotic ability that they've had upon our people is going to be removed. And it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken from off thy shoulder and his yoke from off thy neck. Today the yoke represents these contracts. It says, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of what? The anointing. What is the anointing? The oil of truth. The 5 wise virgins. You had the 5 wise virgins. You had the 5 foolish virgins. And they had what? Five of them had oil, the other five did not. The other five had the oil of the world, lipados, that slowed them down spiritually. They didn't have the oil of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai that once you put it into the vessel gives light. All right, let's look up the word anointing. Should go to the word mashak or mashiach. Shaman, oil again, see? Which goes back to what? You have the oil of truth, and then you have the oil of lies. And you had Israelites that were blocked from the oil of life, by believing in the oil of that were blocked from the oil of truth by believing in the oil of lies. Because remember, King David put a direct curse on the Israelites so that they couldn't get, which is really Yahushai, so they couldn't get to the truth. This truth, is it's amazing, man. It's amazing. All right, so I saw one of it says, as it was wounded to death and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wandered after the beast. They were following behind him in a zombified state. Right? So going back to Isaiah 8:14, and he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and for a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, for a gin and for a snare, which are what? Traps to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and be snared and be taken. And even Simeon said that this child is set up for the rise and fall of many in Israel. And we're seeing that right now, even to this day. So it says, bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples, right? Because only the ones that are given to Yahushai by Yahweh are going to make it. And we're hoping to be some of those. It says, and I will wait upon the Lord that hideth his face from the house of Jacob, and I will look for him, right? Because once the Lord opens up this truth to us, then we're no longer in that comatose state. This is why Isaiah 25:7 says, and he, meaning the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, will destroy in this mountain, America, the face of the covering cast over all people, meaning those lies that covered the whole earth, that made the people wonder after the beast. That deception that was given to these devils to accomplish going back to the time of the Renaissance. Because the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? They did it. Inside joke. And the veil that is spread over all nations. See? So all peoples of the planet, are under this veil, except for the ones that the Lord opened their eyes to be able to see. And go to the word nations, Gawaya. Hagawayim, which went back to what we started with in Genesis. The Gentiles or nations, the only people, all people on the planet can be Gentiles or nations. The Gentiles that salvation is for are Israelites. The Gentiles that salvation is not for are all of the nations, including Esau, the Amalekites, and all of them. All right, so let's go from there. What else do we have? All right, so Isaiah 6:10, make the heart of this people fat and make their ears heavy and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and convert and be healed. See, turn back and be healed. Let's get this real quick. Let's go to Romans. I love the way this is laid out. It's laid out in spades. Romans 10:10. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. Because belief leads to confession. Belief in something leads someone to speak about it. Speaking about it means you're pushing it, and pushing it and holding on to it means salvation at the end of it, if you're part of the elect. And if you're part of the elect, you will hold on all the way to the end. All right? The brother said, oh shit, Salakia. Brother said, Shalom, L-Tryptophan can cause hallucinations. Yeah, you see that with Jake. But it's causing, you could have physical hallucinations or you could have spiritual hallucinations. All right, so going back to where were we? We read that already. All right, so back to Isaiah 6:11, and we'll close it out here. Then said I, Lord, how long? So how long for them to be blinded? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without inhabitants, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. So until this place is totally destroyed, you're going to have those Israelites that ain't going to wake up. Yep, the brother also said our people are under a spell. That's correct. They're a spell of Esau, but the elect are not. The Lord is pulling that veil off. It says, and the Lord have removed men far away, and there be great forsaken in the midst of the land. Right. And there's a great forsaken that has happened, but there's also a great awakening. It says, but yet, matter of fact, I'm going to read this precept that the brother just put up. Because the third verse says, if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. It says, in whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Yahushua, who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them. That's right. So it says, after, this damn mouse is a piece of shit. After they wake up, right? Or so after when they're about to be destroyed, and the Lord wakes up certain ones of them, it says, but yet in it shall be a tenth, which is what? The elect. And it shall what? Return. The word return goes back to the word convert, which you have here, which goes back to the Hebrew word shawab, which means to return. And this is where you get the word reconciliation, being brought back into the good graces of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, or being befriended back to the Most High. And shall be eaten as a tale tree and as an oak whose substance is in them, right? Because the elect will eat of this truth, this knowledge, this understanding, and be delivered. When they cast their leaves, in other words, teach this word, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof, right? Because the Lord told Ezra, until the same things be accomplished in you, or something like that. I can't think of the exact word. I believe that's 2nd Ezra 6, until the seed be sown in you, something like that. I can't remember exactly how it's worded. But this is where we're at with it right now. So all Israel ain't going to wake up. Only the elect, because the majority of the Israelites are under that L-Tryptophan, So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.